Hi everyone, my name is Zohaib, and today we are going to talk about on a very good, interesting topic that is Autogen, a multi-agent conversation framework. So Microsoft has recently introduced Autogen, and for executing complex tasks. So in this tutorial, we will first explore Autogen and how we can leverage its capabilities to build complex applications, and then we will build an application in which we will query MySQL database using human language queries. So without any further ado, let's get started. So in AutoGen, that is multi-agent conversation framework. So why there is a need for AutoGen in? So what happens that in for very complex tasks we cannot rely simply with an LLM given some kind of a prompt. We have to build a diverse environment in which different multiple workers that can collaborate with each other to perform a complex task. So, for example, if you are working in a company, there are multiple workers that perform different kind of activities with different expertise. So, whenever a complex project comes, then everyone gets involved and they perform their own assigned task, and overall you complete your project, and eventually a successful project is delivered to your client. Similar things happens when a complex task comes to the LLM. The only single LLM cannot solve it. So there must be multiple agents which have different sort of expertise, and there is a necessity to collaborate them with each other to perform that complex task. So Microsoft has introduced the Autogen for these kind of needs. So let's explore the Autogen first. So in Autogen, they introduced different kind of agents that can collaborate with each other to perform a different tasks, and they can send a message to and fro uh, to other agents. So here Autogen like says that they have introduced conversable type of agents, customizable agents. So agents in Autogen are conversable, which means that uh, any agent can send and receive messages from other agents to initiate or continue a conversation. So it is very necessary to send a message to another agent and what the other agent wants to say. So it is very important to receive a message from other agents as well. So and Microsoft introduced a conversable type of agents. Similarly, they have also introduced customizable agents in Autogen can be customized to integrate LLMs, humans, tools, or a combination of them. So to work with the agents, it is very necessary that they can communicate or they can understand the language. Um, and similarly, if humans can be involved in those conversation, it would be very good because the understanding of humans about the task is very important, and they play a vital role in the completion of the tasks. So that's why if you want to incorporate LLMs, humans, tools, or a combination of them, you can also you can also use them inside the agents. So agents can be customized as well. So Autogen has introduced three different type of conversable agents. The first one is assistant agent. The second one is user proxy agent, and the third one is group chat manager. So assistant agent is a very simple one. They have set, there are different parameters that you can set, or by default they have been assigned by the Microsoft. So for assistant agent, they have set the human input mode as a never. So you cannot, human cannot instruct the assistant agent with any sort of input. So it is set to the never. Similarly, code execution config is equal to false. So assistant agent is not able to execute any sort of code. Um, And the default system message here, it says that you are a helpful AI assistant in the following cases, suggest Python code. So by default, they have given a system a default message to assistant agent, and according to that message, assistant agent can create some different kind of Python codes or in other language codes according to the requirements of the application or what has been asked them to do. So it can create different sort of a codes according to your need. Similarly, the second agent is user proxy agent, and for this sort of agent, human input mode is equal to always. So by default, it is set to always. It means that humans can interrupt the agent with its own by giving some kind of input. So it is set to always. So you can also set as per your requirements, but by default it is set to always. Similarly, there is a third agent which is known as group chat manager, and here you can see human input mode is equals to never, so it never takes the input from the human side. And in group chat there are different multiple sort of different agents which can communicate with each other by incorporating a special sort of an agent which manages the chat with the name of group chat manager. So these are three different types of agents introduced by the Autogen framework. You can read about them. So one thing here I would like to mention that the user proxy agent, here you can see two signs. One is Python sign, and the other one is like the human. So as I said earlier, you can send any message to the user proxy agent. It can take messages from the human side. Similarly, it has also the Python interpreter. It means that it can run your Python code. So if there is a need of running executing any sort of Python code, user proxy agent can do that for you. So so these sort of functionalities are very important to complete a to complete a complex task. So how to manage the communication between these different of agents? The Autogen provides you a framework that manages these sort of different tasks which are required to complete a complex task. So yeah, so multi-agent conversation. So they have given us a example in which two agents have been used. Basic two-agent conversation example. So yeah, so you can configure two agents with this sort of a code, like assistant agent with the name of assistant. Similarly, user proxy agent with the name of user proxy. So if you want to initiate the conversations by giving some sort of instructions, so you can give that instruction to the user proxy agent. Like here I have mentioned, it says like what date is today, which big tech stock has the largest year-to-date gain this year. How much is the gain? So you are giving some sort of a initial input to the user proxy agent. So the chat will be initiated and this message will be sent to the assistant agent first. So here is the workflow that describes that how the communication workflow will look like. So so you have sent the message to the user proxy, and user proxy first send this message to the assistant agent. So assistant agent understands what are you what are you asking. So it based on your input, it generates some sort of a Python code or some other Python code. So this code is sent back to the user proxy agent. So user proxy agent has the capability to execute that code. So it executes that code and sends the results back to the assistant agent. So assistant agent will analyze those results. So if those results are correct, it will produce some sort of a output back to the user proxy agent. But if there are some sort of a different requirements that are being not met within this code, so assistant agent will update that code, and then it will send back to the user proxy agent. So user proxy agent will then see the code and will execute that and will send the execution results back to the assistant agent. So now now the code has been executed, and assistant agent now understands like about the results. So it will try to compile those results, and after compilation it will send back to the user proxy agent. So user proxy agent has got the results against the original message, like this message. So so it will terminate the conversation that by it means that the agent has given the answer what the user has been asked uh, while initiating the chat. So our task has been completed. So this is the default working behavior if you configure two agents like the user proxy agent and assistant agent. So sometimes what happens that you need more agents to complete some complex tasks. So you can also do that. So Microsoft has has given us and different examples for complex tasks like math problem solving, multi-agent coding, online decision making. Yeah, dynamic group chat. So they have given us different examples so that we can have a better understanding about the Autogen. Similarly, they have given us different notebooks. You can explore these notebooks for your own project requirements or needs. So now we will work on a project in which we will query MySQL database for getting the results against human-related queries. So for that, I have created a notebook, and I will go through this notebook so that you can understand the better Autogen. So let's get started. So in this code, I have imported some different libraries like OS, load.n. Load.n will be used to import the environment variables. Of course, OpenAI and Autogen libraries will also be used. And yeah, so chat OpenAI, it is about the LLM which will be used in one of our function. Similarly, LLM chain will also be used. There are different sort of prompts that are needed during our to solve our problem. So I have also written that as well. Similar pro template a template from LangChain will also be used. So MySQL dot connector. So this library is used to connect a MySQL database. So yeah. So what we will do, we will first work on two functions in this code. First, we will import different environment variables that are needed, like the AI API key is needed, and similarly, the credentials of MySQL database are also needed while executing this code. So, OpenAI API key has been imported here. I have put all these environment variables in .env file. Similarly, the requirements of different libraries that are needed, I have put that in this file, like Autogen, OpenAI, SQL, Alchemy, MySQL, LangChain, Python.n, Pandas. So different sort of libraries are needed. Similarly, in prompt section, I have given written different sort of prompts that are needed for this application. So let's understand this first. So to use the AutoGen, we have to use different LLMs from the OpenAI API. OpenAI. So AutoGen has only allowed the LLMs from the OpenAI. Therefore, you have to config AutoGen with such models. So I have observed that AutoGen works best with GPT-4. So therefore, I have configured the AutoGen with GPT-4 here, like with the using of autogen.config list from models. Here I have incorporated the models list inside this variable. So config list GPT or turbo. Sorry, we can say I have just given the name like GPT Turbo. It is not about GPT Turbo. If you want to use GPT Turbo, you can also place that here like with GPT 3.5 Turbo name. But it depends upon the results. If you are getting good results, you can also use that. But I have observed that it works best with GPT-4. That's why I have incorporated that. So let's move further. Here I have written a function with the name of query maker. So this is the function that will make SQL queries for us. So what has been given to it? It takes the user input and here I have configured the chat OpenAI model. So it has been set with the GPT 3.5 Turbo. So for query making, we will be using GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is equivalent to the chat GPT. So this model will be used for query making. I have set the temperature to zero point 0.7. Here I have given the API key. Similarly, I have set the cache to false so that it does not use the old information. Similarly, the prompt template from the LangChain prompt template dot from template has been set. I am giving two different sort of prompts like the system prompt and the user input from here. Sorry, one prompt like the system prompt. So by using this prompt template, the LLM chain has been configured and we can use this chain to make the SQL queries. So what I have written in system prompt, it is like a query maker GPT system prompt. So let's see what I have given to it. So this prompt says that you are my SQL query generator. Kindly generate the SQL query only and use the listed columns in below schema. So here I have given the table schema upon which the queries will be made. So I tell you that what the schema looks like. So it is simple table which is related to mobile stock, and we can see that here. This one. So it is very small database I have used for for demonstration purposes. So in this data, I have put all this data on my SQL database, and it contains four columns. One is with the product ID, one with the product name. So we have different sort of mobiles in our stock. iPhone 14, iPhone 13, these different mobiles like from Samsung or Nokia, and their available quantity as well. And in this column, I have incorporated mobile specs like iPhone 14 has these sort of specs, which chip has been used in iPhone 14. Similarly, we can say the camera size like 12 megapixel, how many gigabytes are being is available in iPhone 14. So so different kind of specs for related to iPhone 14 has been put in this cell. Similarly for other mobiles as well. So this very simple sort of data, I have put this data into my SQL database, and the prompt, so I have incorporated the information of that table which is hosted on my SQL database here. So it says like create table mobile stock. So the table name is mobile stock. So these different tables has been used inside that table, and yeah. So I have told the LLM like to use percentage like statement with percentage for the right product match against the product name column. Only use the above mentioned columns in making SQL queries. So he does not need to use any columns by himself. Uh, he he must need to use these different column names while generating the query. So this prompt will be used for generating the SQL query. and this query will be returned. So this is the first function that will be used for making the SQL query while taking the user input. The second function is that this query will be run on the server on which our MySQL database has been hosted. So whenever you create MySQL database, different configurations have been given to you, which contains like the URL of on which your data on which your MySQL database is hosted. Similarly, the username, password, and the database in which the tables you have created. So this sort of information is given after you create your own database on my some on Azure server or some other sort of server. So to connect that database, you have to use this configuration. Here I have put that configuration while using the mysql.connector.connect function. So here we will execute that query generated by the first function, and after executing this query, we will fetch those results and will return those results here. So if there is any exception or there is any error in our SQL query, we will get the exception as a return value. So these two functions will be used inside our Autogen. So let's see how we can um, set the Autogen parameters to use these functions. So I have set two configurations like GPT Turbo simple config. So this is and I have given just config list GPT Turbo. You can ignore that if it is not being used. But GPT Turbo config has been used in Autogen, and I have set the use cache to false so that it does not incorporate the old results while maintaining them in cache. Similarly, temperature has been set to zero point 0.7. Config list in config list we have used like the GPT-4. Yeah, so request timeout is equals to 90 seconds. I have set it to 90, and I have incorporated the two functions that we already talked about, like the query maker and the run SQL query. So I have listed them in GPT Turbo config, which will be used in Autogen. So I have incorporated their definitions, and I have said that description says that generates SQL query as per user input. Similarly, it takes the parameters user input, uh, which is of type string, and the description says like this is the input from the user side. So this function will generate the SQL query. Similarly, the other function like run SQL query, this function is used to run SQL queries against user input to get the results. So it will run the SQL query, and it will take the SQL query made by the first function, which would be of type string, like this is my SQL query. So I have given these two functions like just like we use the GPT function calling with OpenAI with ChatGPT or with GPT-4. So I have given these two functions definition to the GPT Turbo config, which will be used later in Autogen. Similarly, I will talk about this later. This function is termination later. So let's see how the two agents will be configured. I have used two agents like the user proxy agent and the other one is um, assistant agent. So just for the sake of simplicity. So this project can be completed with these only two agents. And if there is a need for more agents, then you can also configure that as per your requirement. So yeah. So you can configure the user proxy agent by using the autogen.user proxy agent. The name I have set it to the admin, like name is equals to admin. So the name of his agent is admin, and I have set its prompt. So by default there is a system message that has been set by the Microsoft. But if you want to use, if you do not want to use that system message, you can also incorporate your own by giving your own prompt. Like I have given admin prompt here, plus the termination message. We will talk about message later, but what I have set in admin prompt, let's see it. In admin prompt, I have just uh, written like it is admin. It is an admin. Its work is to work just like an admin does. Similarly, for the termination message, I have set it here like this one. So, if everything looks good, respond with approved. So what happens in Autogen sometimes you cannot get the appropriate answer, but the agents can uh, try to communicate uh, with each other constantly, which will make your bill very high. That's why I have incorporated this condition like if the agents have got the answer what the user was asking, you need to give the message like if everything looks okay, good, respond with approved. It will give you a message with approved once your original task has been completed. So I have given that in system message as well. So human input mode is equals to never. I have set it to never, so we will not interrupt the conversations once it is started. So we will not interrupt that. So that's why I have set to the human input mode is equals to never. Similarly, is termination message there is a there is this argument which needs to be set, and I have set it to with a function like is termination message. Let's look into user proxy agent definition. So it takes different. It has set different sort of input arguments in its constructor, and in which one of them is a termination message, which is callable like it can be a function. Similarly, there are other multiple things need to be set like the function map. You can use code execution config. You can set LLM config. You can set system message. So some of them we have already set it in our initialization here. So is termination message has been set with is termination message function, which is here. Like what it would do, it would get it would check the response of the user proxy every time, and if the message contains the word like approved, like here I am checking like I am getting the content, and if it is not none, and and if it has the approved message or word in its message, in a content into content key, then it will return us true, otherwise it will return us false. So finally, when we will get our final message with approved word in it, the function will return to true, and our communication between the agents will get stopped. So that's why is termination message has been set it here while doing the initialization of user proxy agent. Similarly, for the assistant agent, we have given the name like data engineer. It is our data engineer. Uh, it will decide while taking the input from the user proxy agent, it will decide which functions it has to it has to be executed for completing the task. So I have given the name like the data engineer here. LLM config, GPT turbo config has been set it here. Uh, which I have already defined like here. I have given that configuration to the data engineer. Similarly, I have changed the system prompt for assistant agent as well. It takes the data engineer prompt and also our termination message as well. So let's look into the data engineer prompt. So in data engineer prompt, we say that do not change user input. So user input does not needs to be changed. You have the opportunity to advise the admin, like the user proxy agent, on selecting the appropriate function. So yeah, and along with the required arguments. So I have also told him that the query maker function is designed to accept human input as an argument and construct the SQL query. Meanwhile, the run SQL query function is responsible for executing the query. Please refrain from independently crafting SQL queries. Once you receive the results from the admin in response to the SQL query, ensure you interpret them accurately. So when the user proxy agent will execute the SQL query, the data engineer responsibility is to interpret those results accurately. So you are also authorized to create SQL queries tailored to user input, subsequently execute the query and provide the results in the event of any errors, please. So if there is some error in your SQL query, please rectify them and rerun the query and then present the answer. So if the SQL query is empty, result is empty, then just say we do not have this mobile in our stock. So according to your own application, we have created this. You need to create this prompt. So I just asked the data engineer prompt to direct the user or admin agent to execute those functions which are needed uh, for performing the on top of the human input. So system message has been set it here and function map. So function map is what? In function map, I have given a dictionary like a query maker and run SQL query. So these are two functions I have incorporated that in this dictionary, which is function map. So we will look into that what is function map. So it says like function map. Just a second. So here it is function map and yeah here. So it can be a dict or callable function. So but we have take use the it is so it is a dict with some callable functions like mapping function names passed to OpenAI to callable functions. That's why I have told the engineer or the data engineer agent like you have these two different functions, and if you think that you need to use these functions to compute the results, then you can direct the assistant agent that you do need to use this function with proper arguments. I have also mentioned in the prompt as well. So these two agents has been configured for completing the SQL database related human queries. So everything so far is being completed. And yeah, so here we are registering the two above functions with the user proxy agent. So user proxy agent can only execute our code. Therefore, it is needed to register those functions with the user proxy agent, like what I have did here. And if you look into register function, it says that a dictionary mapping function names to the functions, register functions to the agent. So it registers your functions to the agent. So here we are initiating our chat with the user proxy agent by using user proxy.initiate chat, and we are giving here the engineer uh, initializations. So it means that the message we give it to here in this argument, it will be directly sent to the engineer agent. And clear history, we have set it to true. Uh, yeah. So this line of code will initiate our chat, and let's run it. So we are asking like how many Apple Provision we have in our stock. So let's see how it works. It is taking a while. So yeah, the communication has been started between the agents. So let's look into the a workflow. So I have asked that how many Apple Pro VN we have in our stock. So data engineer to admin. So this message has been directly sent by the admin to the data engineer, and so they are using the same names we have configured above, like the admin and the data engineer. So the message has been sent to the data engineer. Engineer understands that message and asks to the admin like suggested function call query maker, user input Apple provision. Yeah. So they have changed our input user input, but I have explicitly mentioned the data engineer not to use change user input. However, it has changed to the Apple provision. So let's see further. So data engineer has asked to admin to execute the query maker function with the argument user input and the query maker. So um, the admin have executed that function, executed function query maker, and then make a query by running this query maker function. It says like select static from mobile stock, which is the table name from product name like Apple Provision. So it is getting all the columns against the product name like Apple Provision. So it says like data engineer after getting the making the SQL query, um, admin is sending it back to the data engineer. Now data engineer again is saying to the admin like I want to do a function call run SQL query. I want to run this SQL query. So it have also given the arguments. The SQL query has been set it to this one. So the admin now is executing the run SQL function and sending the results back to the data engineer. So these results has been retrieved after executing the above query. This is the product ID, this is the product name, this is the quantity, and this is the specs of Apple Provision. So data engineer is making now the results. It says like we have 5 units of Apple Provision in our stock and also giving us some specs about Apple Provision. So we got the answer against our original query, like how many Apple Provision we have in our stock. So we have 5 units of Apple Provision in our stock. And here you can see the data engineer has sent a message after getting the required answer, like with the name, with the word approved to the admin, and admin has terminated the conversation. So here it says like, please give a feedback to a data engineer, press enter or type exit to stop conversation. So if you want to give any sort of input and want the data engineer to change something, you can also write down here. And if you want to exit this conversation, you can also do that with exit word like this one. So communication or the working between the agents has been stopped and we got our result. So this is the just a normal application, very simple application related to executing human related queries on my SQL database by using the Autogen. You can configure different sort of agents while using the Autogen for your own project, but it is very early to say that Autogen is very efficient. Uh, to use because it is very good at working with the GPT-4, and GPT-4 has a very large cost. So your bill is gonna be very high if you work with the Autogen. But it is very good start. We need some sort of a framework to work with multiple agents that can talk with each other to perform a complex task. So yeah, and that was all from my side. If you guys have any questions, you can comment below. I will be happy to answer your questions. And if you guys still have no subscribe my channel, you should do it now, because it would be an appreciation for me to work on further on my new videos. And till then, see you guys. Take care. Bye bye.